Hello and welcome at this status update talk on autopkgtest and friends. I'm Paul Gevers, or Albrus, and one of the maintainers behind the ci.debian.net infrastructure, and I've been implementing autopkgtest in migration software in Debian. I'll be giving this talk together with Antonio, who will do a couple of the subjects. Let me start with the first item that we want to update you on, and that's the autopkgtest package itself. The last year we've added a couple of restrictions which enable the maintainers of packages to fine-tune the use of the autopkgtest. And there's the flaky restriction, which can be used for autopkgtest that don't always succeed, but a failure of the test doesn't necessarily mean that there's something very much wrong. So you can still get results, except they won't be used by the migration software. A similar a result can be obtained with slightly different. There's the superficial restriction, which is basically to tell that your test is not doing a hell of a lot. It's basically just a smoke test, and if it succeeds, it tells you that there's not much wrong, but it also doesn't say that everything's right. In Brittany, we'll use this, so the migration software will use this by not giving it a reduction in the time to migrate, but still it will flag failing tests as regressions. Now, the legacy support on the ci.debian.net infrastructure is that you had basically unlimited internet access, but we had to change that recently because we got a couple of workers behind the firewall. So there's now the needs internet restriction, which is also something that FTP master considers a thing. So if you need real internet connections, so resources that have to be found on the internet, you must add the needs internet restriction to your autopkgtest, such that we can skip it on infrastructure where that's not available. And then there's a skip not installable restriction, which is not an extremely pretty restriction, but basically it is there to skip a test if for instance, your package, you depend on a package that's not available. For instance, it is available in stable but not in testing, or you want to have a test for Ubuntu and not in Debian. You can mark it by skip not installable, and it will be skipped on Debian infrastructure. And then the last restriction that we added was skippable, which basically means that inside of your test you can check for conditions, and if the proper conditions are not met, you can exit with code 77, and then the test will be marked as skipped, so it will not be counted as a pass or a failure, and rather have a neutral result.
Something which is not directly provided by us, but we want to mention here, is the salsa CI pipeline. It's been in place since 2018. It's very easy to use. It's just 3 lines of code that you copy-paste into your package. It provides autopkgtest runs, as well as a host of other things like building the package, running Lincoln, doing reproducibility checks, etc. Their autopkgtest setup is reasonably similar to what we do in ci.debian.net. It lets you know really early when you are working on the package if there are autopkgtest problems, so you don't wait until after the upload to find out that your autopkgtest now fails because there was a change in a dependency or a change you made by mistake and then makes the autopkgtest fails. We really recommend you to use the salsa CI pipeline, and you can check out the salsa CI team pipeline project to see more details and instructions on how to use it. On the Autodep 8 front, Autodep 8 is our helper for producing test control files. You can now provide some configuration for the generation of the control file in autopkgtest-package-package-type.conf inside the Debian test directory. So package type is the supported package types, so it can be Perl, Ruby, R, etc. And for all types of packages we support two configurations. One is extra depends, which adds new dependencies to your test. You can use this to include packages from recommends and also to include extra optional test dependencies that you want in your test. You can also use extra restrictions to add restrictions to the generated tests. And for Python packages, you can control the Python module name that's used in the default import test provided by Autodep 8. You can see more about that in the Autodep 8 main page. debci is the package behind the ci.debian.net service. It has received a major overhaul since 2018. First, that year we had Candid Sai as our outreach intern. She worked on creating a self-service interface for authenticated users. Using that interface, you can both request tests for arbitrary packages, and you can include dependencies from different suites, so you can run tests on a package from testing with dependencies from unstable, which is what Brittany does, but you can trigger your own with different combinations. And you can also list your past test submissions, so you see a history of all the tests you submitted, and that's how we use it for listing the Brittany submission. So Brittany for ci.debian.net is just another user. It's just a special one because it also has access to control the migration of packages. Our web pages are more up to date now. So in the past, it used to be the case that you had, for instance, the package tracker saying that the package test failed, and then you didn't have the test listed in the web interface yet. So now we have reworked the web page generation to be done as soon as there are new test results for a package. So now you don't have outdated package anymore. And in general, the updating of the user interface is a lot better now and faster. We have also solved several infrastructure issues in the service. I won't bother you with the details, but it's suffice to say that the service is a lot more reliable now, and we have less emergency maintenance to do. And that's an overall win for the project.
So the ci.debian.net infrastructure currently has workers for 3 architectures, which are the classical AMD 64, where we have 12 worker instances distributed over 12 workers. We have ARM 64 workers. We have quite a bunch of those. Most of them are running either 8 or 2 workers instances to run autopackage tests. And we have PPC64EL, where we have 2 workers. This last architecture is not keeping up with the work that needs to be done for testing integration, so we're not using that yet. We are using it for stable or proposed updates reviews. The other 2 architectures, so AMD 64 and ARM 64, are fully integrated into unstable to testing migration, and the results of these tests are used to block packages that introduce regressions. And the same software that is used to check the unstable to testing migration is used also for stable and until the retirement on old stable, to check that everything that is in proposed updates is also not causing regressions. And a couple of issues have been found that way already, so that's good. As a service for people that upload rather big changes, we're also running an instance on experimental. So for every upload to experimental, the tests are scheduled in the same way as uploads to unstable tested in testing. We test uploads from experimental in unstable, and the results can be found on the pseudo excuses page. And I want to stress that for people that are using experimental, it helps to detect items early before they actually are uploaded to unstable. And just to show how much this integration has resulted in so far. Up to the mid of August, there have been 1,136 bugs found with the user tags of the ci.debian.net team, which are mostly regressions either in a package itself or a package causing failure in autopkgtest of other packages.
And that's all we had for today. Thank you for watching, and if you have questions now, we will be happy to answer them.
There was a question on IRC about the connection to internet, and I can explain a tiny bit about that. So historically, there has been a lot of access. Well, basically, the access to the internet was unrestricted on the ci.debian.net infrastructure, but because we had a couple of workers in China now, that doesn't always work. So the needs internet restriction was added for that, and on top of that, also the I believe that FTP master also prefer that autopkgtests for our archive actually work basically self-contained. I'm not totally sure if that also holds for data, but at least it shouldn't run any software in your test from not inside of Debian.
Yeah, we actually found some autopkgtests that downloaded random software from the internet and ran data tests, and you should not do this. If we find that, we will block the package until you fix it.
Yeah, so I'm seeing the Etherpad, the first question about CI on experimental. Depends a bit on what you mean with CI. So we do trigger the tests, but obviously there's no migration from experiment anywhere, so it's not dating in that sense. But you can see the results on the Brittany page that was in the presentation.
And that's very useful for people doing transitions, so you can upload the new version of a library or your interpreter to experiment and have the reverse dependency tested on unstable with that new version experimental. It's pretty useful, so you have an idea what breaks and what you have to fix.
Actually, for proper C libraries, it doesn't work very well because obviously you need to have stuff rebuilt.
Yeah.
But for a lot of other stuff that doesn't need the rebuilds, it works relatively well.
Yeah.
So it has some cravats, but.
So the next question is not really a question. Thank you. Any plans to implement isolation machine? Yes, it's on our to-do list for forever, I guess, and we'll get there at some point. So one problem we have now is that our AMD64 workers are on Amazon, and that doesn't support nested visualization. So QEMU would be pretty slow there, and we need to find some new workers. I mean, we can just ask the DPL for money and get some workers that do support visualization. So it's not the matter of not having resources, just the most precious resource, which is time. Next question. Do you want to take the next one, Paul?
Yeah, so the question is, what's your plan concerning the pressure from Ubuntu for using AMD64 testbeds for testing i386 packages? I'm not having any pressure, I'm not seeing it, so I guess nobody's working on it, but we're also not really holding it back.
I think there is a branch that Steve is maintaining. I think it was not proposed upstream yet, but they are doing it in Ubuntu, but there is not really any pressure on the Debian side.
Yeah, maybe there's a merge request open to support it a bit.
Next question is not a question. Okay. Any material on autopkgtest integration into transitions?
That's still being typed.
No, yeah, it's. I have it. I'm not sure what you mean there, but.
So I don't think we have any reading documentation there. So the point is just that we schedule tests on uploads for reverse dependencies. That works for testing packages from unstable to testing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't perfectly work during transitions. Maybe Brittany could be improved there, but usually stuff solves itself. Obviously, from experimental to unstable, it's more of a thing because bin and muse don't work there.
Yeah.
In the same way. I take the question about servers in China. That's interesting. Well, that happens to be the background of the sponsor of those workers. So that's why they're there.
Yes.
The timer.
Okay, I just want to plug something before we finish for good. So we have a BOF on Friday. So we'll be discussing all these issues, and if you have questions or any other suggestions for this whole infrastructure, you can show up, you can talk to me or to Paul on IRC and get the GC link for taking part in the BOF. And that's what we have for now, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you.